TF2 is now close to a decade old, and that's not something you can say about a lot of games that are still being continually supported. The few that come to mind for me are things like World of Warcraft, things like RuneScape, and Age of Empires 2 HD Edition. Because while games will often see continued support of their franchises and receive new iterations, HD remasters of older versions, there's few that get active development on the base game. Age of Empires 2 HD is sort of a weird exception to this because the HD remaster is getting exclusive expansions that the base game simply didn't have. So, in essence, I guess the base game's getting developed in a way there. But that's a different debate. TF2 is joining a small group of games that can claim they've been around for a decade with active development. And this of course means that the game gets a very prestigious classification in the larger gaming community. Wow! I can't believe people still play TF2. It's a pretty great claim to fame because it simultaneously celebrates the nostalgia and attachment people have to such an old title like that, and also suggests how it's still an active part of the gaming community. Even if you're a grumpy granddad who doesn't appreciate the continual reminder of your own mortality, it's a pretty big thing to be able to say, and I reckon that once the 10-year anniversary actually drops, later this October 10th to be precise, you're going to see a lot of mainstream gaming media talking about TF2. It's going to be an article that you'll see in a lot of sites, where everyone's going to just collectively go, wow, the game's really old, and there's still people playing it. And that's pretty great because that gets us a bunch of publicity for our community. Even if we didn't win the Test of Time award last Christmas, god damn you, Skyrim! It's a terrible game, 0 out of 100. It's a Battleborn clone. This will be a real test of time. It will show how relevant the game has remained since its launch 10 years ago. And just so we're clear on when the 10-year anniversary is, the launch of TF2 was October 10th, 2007. The commonly celebrated anniversary mode and birthday mode we actually do celebrate in Team Fortress 2 every year is to celebrate the release of Team Fortress, the 1996 version. So we have Team Fortress being celebrated then, and Team Fortress 2 specifically on October 10th. So I didn't get my dates wrong. I did my research! You can't take my license! Now unfortunately in the recent Gabe Newell Ask Me Anything, the specific question regarding the TF2 10-year anniversary was addressed, and the team did state that they have no particular plans for the anniversary. They simply want to get out the updates that they can and have scheduled for this year. But if we backtrack with that knowledge for a second, about a month back I posed this exact post to the TF2 subreddit, simply asking what would be your dream for the 10-year anniversary, considering it's a bit of a special occasion. Again, not many games can claim they're a decade old. And this was before the news dropped in the Gabe Newell Ask Me Anything that there may not be a specific update for the 10-year anniversary. But you know, we can still live in hope even with that knowledge that there might be something. And considering the submissions in this post, which by the way, thank you to everyone that did submit suggestions in that, considering those submissions in relation that we may not have a major update, you can kind of gauge which ones might be a little more likely than others. You'll find a full link in the description as well for the Reddit post in question. Do give it a look to see some of the ideas we don't discuss today. So there's two suggestions in particular I want to talk about today, and the very first of these unfortunately comes from a man who deleted his post afterwards. But thankfully, I left a comment on this, and you can kind of work out what the suggestion was from that. A temporary legacy mode. The suggestion was that to celebrate 10 years of TF2, we revert everything back to basics. Now, a lot of you might be panicking at the sheer suggestion of that because I'm gonna be first to admit that would throw game balance completely out the window. You're not gonna have loadout options or anything like that, and naturally as well, if we revert it back 10 years, like God knows what state the weapons will actually be in. You gotta revert changes on those, which is probably something that we're not going to be able to introduce feasibly. But the idea of a legacy mode where basically everyone has to play stock, everyone is hatless, and the maps in the game are restricted to the ones that were introduced at launch is kind of cool. Other games have done this kind of legacy mode to celebrate their anniversaries. World of Warcraft actually had a great one for its 10-year anniversary where they reintroduced the raid Molten Core for the new expansion that was out at the time. And as anyone who's played Warcraft, you might remember Molten Core as the one with that big old Fire Lord guy. It's got a lot of nostalgia for a lot of players, so to see it reintroduced in this way brings back a lot of those memories. And introducing a legacy mode to TF2, a temporary one, cannot stress that enough, because if this was to stick around, game balance is gone forever. Temporary one would be kinda cool, because you're just back to stock, you're back to playing in that game mode when the item servers crash. It's pretty much what it is. But it would be kinda cool. It will put everyone on an equal pace, and if you throw in some cool things like some noisemakers, some festive hats, which is like your only option for hats at this time, maybe a cool interactive taunt of some description, you can have a lot of fun with this. You'll get to experience the game as it was in 2007. Anyone who's been around that long will be able to revisit the game in that state, and anyone who joined in the later years will be able to experience it as well and just look back and see how far the game has come. Personally, I think this is an awesome idea. Again, it introduces a lot of issues with things like weapon balance and class balance in particular. I think for ease of introducing something like this, again, you wouldn't revert all the changes, like particularly in things like the classes. Like, could you imagine if we're suddenly going to have things like slower spies and you just kind of revert those things immediately? Like, it would be kind of insane if they introduced it to that degree. But simply having all stock and restricting it to stock maps, like original stock maps, I think would be pretty cool. And it would also be very interesting to see everyone feeling a bit naked and a bit hatless. I think that would be a really awesome thing to do. If you have it last for a couple of days, maybe throw in some cool contracts with it as well. Kind of defeats the point of having it legacy mode if you have a shiny new feature with it, but it would incentivize it, and I think it would be good crack to have everyone together like that. The second suggestion I want to talk about comes from my good buddy Timo, you know, that Blapature nerd I hang out with sometimes. And his suggestion is very straightforward. Valve Senpai, notice me! But seriously, this is a great suggestion. An actual live stream where they actually acknowledge their community and interact with us. God knows we only love to hear from Valve and all the crazy projects they're up to. And to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Team Fortress 2, it would very much be a sort of in the spirit of the community thing to have a live stream with them, because TF2 has got a really, really big community about it. And this would be a fantastic way to celebrate it. It can be like as simple as even doing an Ask Me Anything just live on stream. Get a couple of devs together, see if they want to play TF2 a bit. Like hell, they could even bring in freaking Nathan Vetterling. I mean, he streams TF2 anyway. But that would be something that would just be awesome to do. Like a community event just with Valve. Because we always talk about the community when it comes to Team Fortress 2, and we are very much an organized bunch, but for the most part, when it comes to that sense of organized community and how much we actually do, it's very much community-centric. Valve has very little input on the state of a lot of these projects. Now, I can't discredit them too much for this, because they do actually acknowledge things that are happening around the community. Hell, for freaking Rally Call that's next week, they actually added the medals to the game for it, which is freaking incredible when you think about it. And we'll be talking more about Rally Call in a very special commentary that I've got lined up for next week. But I think the idea of Valve doing something very public for the 10th anniversary of TF2 would be fantastic to see. Certainly it would be very left-wing compared to their very much reserved nature when it comes to contacting the community, but I think we'd love it all the more specifically for that. It would give us a chance to talk directly to Valve, hell, maybe even play some TF2 with them if you happen to be on the same servers, and I think that can make for a very awesome event. Even if there's no major update on the day, I'd be ecstatic if they did something like that. Like, it would be really awesome to see. Valve does indeed listen to the community, but it can feel like we still live in a vacuum from time to time because there is this communication barrier between us. So having something like this that's a very public thing would be great. And those are the two main suggestions that I wanted to talk about for today's video. I think it's important to bear in mind as well that we shouldn't raise our expectations too high when it comes to the 10-year anniversary. We've been purely speculative today, and there's a good chance that nothing may happen on the anniversary itself. And if that's completely okay, because Valve is probably off working on something else. But I think it would be a very cool event to acknowledge, because not every game can claim that it has managed to survive and stay relevant for a decade. And I think considering the fantastic community we have built up around Team Fortress 2 in the span of that decade, I think it's something that would definitely be worth celebrating. If you've got any suggestions of your own that you'd like to see for the 10-year anniversary, by all means pop them in the comments below. And let's not try to stay too pessimistic about this. It happened in the Reddit post, but a lot of people got upset that I had the audacity to suggest that this might be celebrated. And there was a couple of frowny faces among the comments. So let's keep that clear from here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again with something new soon.